Oh, welcome back, it's Mini Tom, and in this video I'm going to repair this door hinge. Now I've snapped off the studs. I've done my other ones before, but this one I just didn't take off at the time, and now I've done it and now I've snapped them. So all you need to do is you need to cut off the broken part of the stud so it's flush with the hinge. On the back of them studs there's a little bit of weld. Now I'm using a grinder. You can use a grinder, you can use a flap disc if you need to, or you can use a hacksaw, whichever you feel is safest for you or whichever you want to do. Either method will work. So once you've cut them off, the next step really is just a centre punch directly in the middle of them studs that you just made flush. The reason for making them flush is just that it's easier to drill it out. Now the weld on the back is obviously there for a reason. I believe that reason is that it holds the actual stud in place. It doesn't unwind itself when you're tightening things up. If you don't have access to a welder, which would be ideal really if you could do it with a welder, you could always use a bit of thread lock, or you could get a nut, cut it in half and lock it against the back of it. Just bear in mind that you have got to have some movement in that hinge to be able to do it, but ideally you'd want to be welding it if you can. You could also peen the back of it as well if you wanted to, but yeah, like I say, a weld's better. But if you are really in a pinch and you haven't got one, there probably is other methods that you could try. So all I'm doing now I think this is a 1/4 inch UNF thread. I don't have a 1/4 inch UNF tap. I have got the bar for it, but I haven't got the tap. So what I am doing is I'm going to put some metric in there. I've done it with all my other ones and it's been fine, and the equivalent for that would be M6. And I think there's near enough makes no difference in that. But what I've done there, I've drilled it out to 5mm. I think it should be 4.8 for M6, but 5mm is fine. So a 5mm drill bit straight through it. I did snap a couple of them. I think they're all a bit old and blunt of mine. But drilled that out, and then we can just put an M6 tap down there. This is all really easy stuff to do. It's probably going to be teaching a few people to suck eggs that kind of do minis, but this video is aimed at people that just have never done this sort of stuff before, and they don't want to spend the ridiculous amount of money that Mini Sport or Mini Spares want for their brand new hinges. It's a really cheap fix, and it's one that I definitely recommend doing. Something I have got to do as well on another video is to replace the pin that goes down one of them. My driver's hinge sags a little bit because of that. Whether that's doable, I don't know. I'll have to wait and see on that one. Yeah, I did snap a drill bit as well. That was a pain. I had to dig all that out, all bit of drill bit out. My drills are so blunt, I need to get a grinder to sharpen them. So all I've done there, I've just put a little bit of 3-in-1 oil on that tap just to help it go in a bit easier. It's not hard steel or anything that we're going into, it's just to help it a little bit so I don't snap it. Now if you notice what I'm doing there, I'm just taking it a little bit at a time, maybe a turn at a time, then wind it back a little bit, and that'll break the chips. The last thing you want to do at this stage is break a tap, because you'll be having a nightmare trying to dig that back out. So really take your time, one turn and then wind it back a little bit, carry on going and wind it back a bit. You can see there it's gone really nicely. I've not broken the tap and I've gone nice and straight into that. So again, it's really easy stuff. It's, you know, you can save a hell of a lot of money by just doing these couple of simple steps and repairing your hinge that you've already got. The next thing to do is just to cut some M6 bar. Like I say, if you're using Imperial, which you absolutely can do, if you've got the taps for it, then it's just the same process. A little tip as well, which I didn't do on that video, on that part, is to just put a nut on the part that you're going to cut off. That way you can wind the nut off of the thread that you just cut, and it doesn't leave as much of a burr. The reason I didn't do that on that one is because I didn't have any more M6, so I had to use 2 to hold it in the actual vise, but it's nothing that a little file on the edges can't sort out. And to be honest with you, you've got to put a file on the edge of your threads anyway after you've cut them with anything, just to make sure that you can actually get your nuts onto it. So you can see me there, just find a bit of a chamfer onto that. Again, if you've got a bench grinder, you can do it with that. You can do it with a grinder if you need to, but with such a small piece, I wanted to use a file just because grinders and bench grinders have a habit of flinging these little nuts anywhere. So once that's done, just check it all fits. I think as well I used about 30mm of bar on that. It's not an exact science, it's just kind of cut it and see if that's right. Like I say, I've done the other 3 of these now, so I kind of know roughly in my head what I need to cut off, but I think as a rule of thumb I'd probably say about 30mm of length on that bar. That should be fine. Once you've done that, it's a simple case of winding the stud into the hinge, get it nice and flush, and then, like I say, if you've got a welder, great, just weld the back of it, try and get it nice and hot. I think the weld is more there just to secure the actual stud into the hinge. I think Rover and Austin and what have you probably did that because well, one, they had welders, and two, it's probably cheaper than buying threadlock if it was even available at the time. But yeah, ideally get it back to how it should be, which is a blubber weld on the back of it to secure it. If you are in a pinch, I dare say you could use threadlock or a cut down half nut, as I mentioned. Just be mindful that when your door opens, it has got to have some clearance space there. But like I say, whichever method you find works for you is probably going to be the best. You've tapped it anyway, so I don't think it's going to fall out if you put a bit of threadlock in there. You know, there's plenty of meat in there for the threads to grip onto. So yeah, it's up to you. This is just purely how I've done it. So that'll all be getting painted up when I do my doors. I've sort of finished them yet, but as you can see, just a real quick brief tidy up and put the nuts on and it's done. Easy as that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, share if you feel like you want to, and let us know down below how you've done it. Thank you for watching.